Hello, everyone, and welcome to episode 265 of the RRBG podcast. This podcast is a proud member of the Podbelly Network. Go to podbelly.com and check out all the amazing shows we have on our network, including the Sofa King podcast, Robots for Eyes, Art and Jacob Do America. I mean, there's one for everything that you're into. If you're into Magic the Gathering, they got you. If you're into the occult, they got you. You're into serial killers, they got you. Everything. Go to podbelly.com, check out the list, and support the network. This episode is also brought to you by Killcliff. My friends over at Killcliff make the best energy drink you can buy in the market today. Clean energy, none of that crap that they put in Monster or any of those Red Bulls. No sugar, just clean power for all the grind you're going to have to put in today. And if you're not grinding today and you just want to relax, they also have CBD drinks to help you recover from any injuries you may have, any kind of inflammation. Maybe you went a little too hard at the gym. CBD drink will get you right back on track. Go to their website, killcliff.com. Check out all their different flavors. My personal favorite Ignite drink is the Cherry Limeade. And in the CBD category, you have to try the Joe Rogan Special. It's the Flaming Joe Pineapple with Jalapeno. It's not that spicy. You just get a little bit of a kick at the end. It's delicious. Go to killcliff.com and tell them that RRBG sent you. This episode is also brought to you by our good friends at Saints Joints. Go to saintsjoints.com to check out all the options that they have. They have these amazing packages with pre-roll joints, which will have pre-rolls from either side of the strain spectrum, either indica or sativa, and they even have multi-strain collections. Pick up one of their amazing Book of Saints. They currently have 2 volumes, volume 2 being a special Halloween edition. It looks like the Necronomicon. It's amazing. They're currently available in Washington and Oregon and will soon be available in California. Go to saintsjoints.com and tell them that RRBG sent you. This episode is also brought to you by our friends at Thunderking Coffee. Thunderking provides organic, air-roasted coffee straight out of Costa Mesa, California. It's seriously some of the best coffee I've ever had. My personal favorite is the Positive Morning Attitude. I order 2 pounds of this almost every 2 weeks because I just can't get enough. But they also have bottled cold brew. They have their special California Christmas peppermint cold brew out right now. You can order it from their website. So go to thunderkingcoffee.com and check it out. Support small, independent businesses, people. In this episode, it's the return of Tristan, Shone of Author and Punisher. They have a new album coming out February 11th called Crueler, available on Relapse Records. We talked a lot about the creation of that album, the visual aspect of the album. We talked about how Tristan is adapting his live show and bringing out a guitar player for this tour that's coming up. He's doing a short run in Europe and then doing a few West Coast dates, so make sure to keep an eye out for that. We talked about an upcoming Author and Punisher beer that they're making, a Black Kolsch. We talked about when Author and Punisher went on tour with Tool and how they got involved in the new album as well. It's a fun conversation. I hope you guys enjoy it. Follow him on social media at Author Punisher on all the things. Pick up the new record on Relapse Records or go to tristanshone.com. Make sure to click subscribe down there. Hit the little bell. Make sure you can get notifications and we get more exposure onto the algorithm and all that. And support the podcast by checking out patreon.com/RRBG and help us keep this show running. What's up, everyone? Welcome to the RRBG podcast. I'm here with Tristan of Author and Punisher. Welcome back to the show, dude. How you doing?
Good. Thanks for having me. I'm just took too many gummies last night before bed, so I'm sort of just, I'm trying to get the cobwebs off, but try not to drink as much, so I kind of overdid it on the gummies this time, but
I see. That's good. I mean, it's important to take little breaks from the different things, I'll stop drinking, but I'll smoke a little extra weed or eat some edibles and vice versa. Vice versa. You want to take a break from the edibles and maybe you have a drink instead. And then that you go too far in that angle, get too many tequila shots in.
Exactly. I sleep a lot better. This is the way that it works better, for the health but I'd rather be a little groggy than be hungover, to tell you the truth.
Yeah, because I mean, like groggy, you could just take some coffee or some Kill Cliff. No, I'm just kidding.
Exactly.
Yeah, man. I've been also, thankfully with the show's doing well enough to where people are sending me stuff, and
that's awesome.
The edibles are they're a whole different game. I'm scared of them a little bit because with joints I could just I know how many I could take like a couple hits and I'm like, all right, I'm good. But with edibles, it's like not really feeling anything, and then all of a sudden you're glued to the couch. Like, oh no, what happened? But last time we spoke, I think you were driving on the show. Last time we spoke on the show, we've spoken in person since then. But you were like driving on tour, I think, and you were like building stuff on the road like a maniac.
Probably had some sort of thing that we decided to change up halfway through, and. Yeah.
But now you're here. You got a new album coming out February 11th. Krula. Am I pronouncing it?
Yeah, exactly.
Krula. Tell me a little bit about it, man. I heard the two songs that are out right now. Maiden Star just came out, and the other one, what was the other one's name? Drone Carrying Dread. Yeah.
Yes. Yeah, man. These are. I mean, those two are kind of the songs that I think carry the feeling of the album the best for me. They were kind of the first two kind of riffs when I got back, in the beginning of the pandemic when I started writing, just to hit these sort of trying to redefine the sound a little bit from the low end perspective, like hitting the subs in a different way. And and those two songs have these sort of chords, these fifths that I hit on some synths and sort of bend some of the other notes into it that gives it this sort of, I don't know, it's just like a bellowing low end, but also kind of a sort of a melodic, there's not a lot of like cynicism and angst in these songs. There's a little bit more like positivity, I guess. If we're talking about like, it's the closest I'm going to get to making like an emo record,
Yeah, I mean, I noticed that there is a change in terms of mood, I guess you could say, towards the music. Whereas the previous work is a little more aggressive, a little more angst, like you said. And this one, I definitely felt it a little bit more melodic, even though you do still sing in other songs and there is melody in other songs from your past. This does have a little bit more melody to it, and it feels more drone. Like, I know that the name of the song is Drone Carrying Dread, but it is a little droney in that sense of, very, spacey sounding. Which,
also on those two songs, I can't, this record cannot be talked about without mentioning Phil Scrosso and Jason Began, Viter, who basically co-produced this and the last three recordings with me. He's, does all that electronic stuff. I'll write some melodies for synth, but then giving it to him, and he just creates these like textures and writes some parts, and his like plethora of synths allows me to like really find when I come up with those melodies, I'll just use some software synths that I have or some hardware synths, but I don't really curate that sound and get deep into it. And these are people that, he's like, okay, this is what it needs to sound like. And he'll find that sort of John Carpenter, eerie kind of broken synth drone that I need. Same with Phil, I haven't had guitar since 2010, and he, like drone putting like Ebo and slide. And then on these like parts, it kind of like mush the parts together in an organic way, which, is hard for me to do. Sometimes, I have the sliders, but to do it in this kind of, in that mid to high frequency range, they just nailed it.
Nice, man. And does this create any kind of complication for you taking it on the road? Like, now you have to figure out how to get these sounds from other folks into the live show?
Well, I'm bringing a guitar player now.
There we go. Okay.
Sadly, Phil won't be able to tour because his band is much more popular and makes a lot more money than I do, and he's got to tour with them. So, but Doug Sabolic, who's from a band called Ecstatic Vision, he's out of Philly, and his older band's called A Life Once Lost, who you might know.
I know that band. Yeah.
Yep. Yeah, kind of killer metalcore sort of. It sort of blended his last album with with A Life Once Lost sort of took on this like kind of droney trance like thing. And I really loved that last album that they did. And that became Ecstatic Vision, which is his new band, which is, they've got a saxophone player, a couple of drummers, unique, but he's a shredder, man. And we've known each other for a long time. So a lot of it for me is just having a dude that I will enjoy touring with as a human being. So,
yeah. I mean, how long has it been since you've played shows with somebody else on stage?
Probably like 2008 or 9. So, and then also the tracks that Danny and Justin from Tool played on, I don't think I'll be getting them on the road with me. No? I might get one LA performance if I time it well. And I bait them down there, but those guys won't be playing, but just Jason, who did a lot of the electronic stuff, same, like his stuff, that stuff will be sequenced. Some of those synths that are up high and these kind of textures that blend, some of that stuff is like so dialed in the studio that I can just sequence it, and I'm still playing all the major stuff. But I've got a click and I can play along to some of those.
Yeah, I mean,
or we can just hit a button and trigger it,
Well, yeah, there's that too. That's what most like industrial, like gothy bands do. Where it's not real drums, but if they play those pads that kind of can sequence the sounds, it works. It looks nice.
Yeah, you can like play the kick along with the for the most part it's live, but there are some things that we sequence, and thankfully for Ableton Live software, it makes that all easy.
Nice, man. So tell me about working with like Danny and Justin. Like I know you played some shows with him before times.
Yeah.
How and I'm sure that I was going to ask like, how did you guys meet? But that tour is probably where that happened. But tell me what it was like working with them, having them be a part of the creative process. Yeah,
getting off the road. We all kind of shocked, and just Danny and Justin, shared a green room, and those guys hung out the most after shows. So I got to know them, and Justin, the one person who I didn't really know before the tour, he's a big soccer fan. Football fan. He's a Chelsea supporter. I'm a Liverpool supporter. So we were watching some matches together. And nice. So we kind of kept the conversation going after the tour, and we said, hey, let's do something together. And it turned out that it was him playing on one of the tracks. We kind of kept sort of just like loosely talking about it. But that one track, Centurion, that he played on is probably the most industrial track on the record, kind of closest to some of the, I don't know, older stuff, maybe closest to the stuff off of Beastland, like Nile Strength or something. And so that was the one that I programmed. And so that was like, I had a beat that I programmed, so I didn't play it. I programmed it, although I can play it now. Mm-hmm. And so I sent some sort of synth and drum patterns to him, and then we went back and forth. And it was great. I mean, hearing his tone was just like, yep, that's Justin's bass. And those guys are big industrial fans. So like, I didn't need to, he got it,
Yeah, for sure.
But it was cool to get like a bunch of different parts from him, and then sort of like, hey, I'm going to use that one and this one, and then kind of craft it from all. He just gave me so much material.
That's awesome, man.
And then Danny was a little bit more like, he had torn his, one of his muscles lifting weights. And so he wasn't able to work on it, even we had agreed to do it. And then I had to submit the album, because it's like 8 months or something before you can get vinyl now from the factory. So he was like, he had 2 weeks. He's like, okay, I'm going to do it. So he went down and he recorded it in one take, or I don't know how many takes he took, but we didn't go back and forth. He just sent me this like perfect, like super, I've never had that many drum hits, like kicks and snares and different like levels of toms and the fills on the track Misery. So you'll definitely hear it. And then live, I don't really want to play those. So it'll probably just be a little bit more of an electronic sounding track without his drums in there.
Okay. So it'll be, it'll be a variation.
Yeah, it'll be a variation. And I don't really want to sequence it because it's so obviously, acoustic drums.
Sure. Yeah. Well, that's cool though. I mean, some bands do that sometimes. You look at bands like Nine Inch Nails; they have variations of their songs that they play live that are not on an album. So I mean, that's not new or like too impossible.
It kind of leaves it open that if I was on tour with a band, let's just think of like a Converge or something like that, and that's probably not going to happen. But if it were a band with a rad drummer, I could be like, hey, Danny played on this track. Do you want to play together on that one track on the tour? No pressure. Just make it sound as good as Danny Carey.
Yeah, no big deal. Just one of the best drummers ever. That's cool.
Yeah. Here's this. Just learn it tonight and play it perfectly.
But I wouldn't say, you kind of put yourself down there. You like mentioned Converge and you're like, I don't know. I was like, that's possible. I think that's a possible.
It is possible, yeah. I don't mean it like that. I mean like I just don't want any expectations.
No expectations, but you got to put it out there, man. It's the vision board mentality, right? You got to like throw it out.
Well, if you talk to Chelsea Boltek, I love her, and I love her band and the music she makes. And Yob, those are two bands that I would love to support on tour sometime. So,
well, I know Yob, and I don't know Chelsea, but I know the Converge dudes, and they just put out an album with her, and
yeah,
I think you just need to talk to Sargent House. I forget Kathy, I think is her name.
Yeah, she's a tough nut to crack. I mean, she's just they've just got such a great label, and they're just. I don't know. Everybody wants to tour with those bands,
of course,
understandably so.
So, tell me about yourself during this whole like break that everybody had. Not really a break, but the time of no shows. Were you trying to come up with new sounds? Were you building new instruments? Because I know that you love doing that. What were you doing during this time?
Yeah, I mean, well, the sort of new thing that we're doing. Other than just, getting back from tour, I really listened, in 2020, we released a live thing from all the Tool shows. And so we recorded all of them, basically like best sound systems I'm going to play on, sound engineers, their monitor engineers are helping me, with my in-ear mixes and in ways professionals, and just getting different opinions from people that have been out there in the world, that have been on the road with big bands. And so, when I got back, I really had I learned a lot, and I was also able to listen to each show and say, like, what do I like? What do I don't like? What's not working? And sort of be honest with myself almost as a fan, listening. And so I was able to say like, hey, this sounds really good. This stuff doesn't sound so good. And then with the pandemic, I was like, if there's any time to kind of retool everything and come up with new sounds and redo this and that, this is now, and so I did that before the Tool tour because I bought a bunch of new gear and I did it after. So I got to basically deciding that I was going to sort of make the vocals a little different. The music is now on this album is very heavy. So I felt like I didn't need the vocals to be as heavy as that. They could kind of take the back seat because the kick and the tone was what was bringing the sort of heaviness. And then just gear wise, we sort of decided to start this company, Drone Machines, which is this kind of boutique gear company based around the instruments that I make.
Oh, okay.
So that'll be different versions, but similar versions to what I'm using. And I'll be taking those on the road. Taking a little longer to get the stuff built right now, but the company's called Drone Machines. You can find it on Instagram _Drone Machines _ and it's Jason Began, who's who produced the record, is a partner, and then a mechanical engineer, an old friend of mine, Adam Reed Erickson, is basically taking my designs and making them professional products.
Oh, so people can now do their own, live shows with playing with the handles.
Well, yeah, there's certain things that we'll have and certain things that, I'm not sure if this thing will be for sale right away, because that's probably the most kind of, it's a right-handed drum machine. It needs to be mounted on a table in a very specific way so that it doesn't rock back and forth. There's some things about it that don't make it practical. It would be incredibly expensive to make that thing. And then all the required accessories. So we're kind of going to feel this out with some of the more synth knobs, sliders. There's a knob called the ingot, which is like this disc thing that slides and spins and, it'll be 19 inches and you can attach them to your modular synths and all your hardware and some guitars and all open source electronics so that, users can, program if they want to. They can upload different files in the shareable community. So it's not going to be some super like with a little LCD screen with a million options that you have to like look through.
Yeah.
This is all like intuitive devices.
That's awesome, man. I really like that idea. That when you said it, I'm like, of course, that makes perfect sense. Like that's a good way to extend your brand, if you want to say,
Yeah, and I don't want to become this I don't want to be like a traveling salesman, and so we're going to try to. All of that is sort of this big unknown, I hope it's just. We're going to try to keep it like boutique and small. There's some companies out there that I really like that have done a really good job at sort of like maintaining, smaller quantities, good quality, and pay their people well at their company and all that kind of crap. We enjoy this. I don't want it to become, it to be not fun, Yeah.
Yeah.
So I wouldn't say I'm going to quit my day job. We'll just see.
We'll see. Okay. Hey, if it takes off, you never know. You got to start doing NAMM. You got to start showing up at NAMM to sell your devices.
I know. And I'm like
handshakes.
And that doesn't sound fun. But there's some other ones that are fun, like Super Booth up in Berlin, and there's one in Chicago, I think called KnobCon. A little smaller.
KnobCon?
Yeah. Big knob.
That's awesome.
I should just write one that says knob end on a t-shirt, and I'll be like, yeah, this is KnobCon, right?
It's funny you mentioned the vinyl press being so delayed. I just got a vinyl that I completely forgot I pre-ordered back in like April.
Yeah.
I forgot. And I was like, what is this? And I opened it up as it was Kill Switch's End of a Heartache. I completely forgot that they had done that, and it's been almost a year.
Like a repress, yeah.
Yeah, it's nuts, man. Maybe that's a business that people need to start looking into making more of. Like, we need more vinyl press plants. How about that?
Well, there's some smaller ones. Like there's some in LA around the US, but they just don't do the quantity, I think. Because if you look up, I forget what it's called. There's a bunch around in the US. There's also some DIY ones. You can buy these things now. So I imagine that's going to be like, hey, 3D print your own fucking vinyl pretty soon or something.
Yeah. I don't know how I feel about it. That's cool. I still don't know how I feel about 3D printing. I feel like it's still cheap. Like anything, I know that it's not. I've seen some really good things like props for cosplay and whatever, but still it just feels cheap. There's no way that can be real.
Good for prototyping,
Yeah.
It's almost like you would make dub plates or something, basically just make your like, hey, I'm a small band DIY and I'm going to make 10 for tour or something. Back in the day we made mixtapes and CDs and shit, but now nobody wants to buy that stuff. They just want vinyl. So it's like,
it's an interesting time. Like for me, it's definitely vinyl. I don't buy CDs or cassettes or anything. I know that cassettes are in with like certain metal bands, but I grew up with cassettes and they suck.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? I had the pencil to rewind it and to fix the warped, actual tape itself. It gets warped if you leave it out. Like it's too much work. Yeah. So now it's just digital, and then the vinyl is the collector's kind of thing to when I'm home, I'll listen to that. But when I'm out, I'm not going to walk around with a Walkman anymore. Come on.
Friday night, when you're making some good food and having some drinks, it's a great time to throw on the vinyl. When you're not stressed about anything, you can just sort of take your time. Yeah,
the biggest stress is having to flip it to the other side later on when we get to it. You're going on tour soon, a couple weeks in Europe.
Yeah. Stay tuned. We're still kind of monitoring COVID on that one, as I imagine most people think we are. So we'll have to making some tough decisions. But that one is still up in the air because I'm trying to wait and see what happens with UK. I think I have to give them an answer in a few days. I don't know when this podcast is airing, but for sure we've got some dates in March in the US and LA and in Oakland, and then up. I believe we're going to be putting some Northwest dates in between those. So a nice little short run, which I think is a good way to do things right now. These little short little clumps, because if you lose one or you lose a show, it's not the end of the world.
Yeah.
It might even be like a new
new normal.
Yeah, a new sort of touring scheme is to just sort of do these like long weekends.
Yeah, it's not, you can't book out, a 3-month tour and then you make all these merch, print all these shirts out, and then it gets canceled, and then now what? I like the idea of smaller tours. Also, it keeps it fresh with the opening acts and whatnot, whoever's going to be a part of it. But have you played any shows?
Yeah. Have played what?
Have you played any shows since the pandemic?
No.
Nothing. So this is
and it's pretty nervy now. This UK tour was really like fuck, man, this is really happening. I need to get my shit in gear,
Yeah. Have you done a lot of rehearsals or anything?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, and recording myself and looking at my gear and saying like, hey, that's because for Tool, I kind of built like a big rack, a rolling rack with these amps for these speakers that I have, and just kind of like too much gear because they were carrying it, so I didn't have to worry about the weight. And now I'm looking at like, if I fly to my parents' house on the East Coast, I have my other van there that died for a long time, but I fixed it, so it's sitting in my dad's field. So now I've got my 2004 Sprinter van that's full of like chipmunks living in it, but it still works. So I'll be driving that. So I've got to fly there, and keep my gear quantity down. So I got to rebuild, my whole rack, which is sort of like, those are the things that cause me problems, is all the wiring. It's not my instruments. It's the, it's just the hardware, making sure that the drivers and software and all the cabling is professional. So, and then getting the vocals and the guitar to all of my playing on the songs, that stuff is dialed in. It's the vocals and the guitar. The parts that are new on this album, those are the ones people are going to be, what's the word I'm looking for?
Scrutinizing.
Yeah. But I've been recording it. It's pretty good. A lot less distortion on the vocals. So I'm standing up there without any clothes on.
Oh, okay. All right. So have you been taking any kind of vocal lessons or anything special, anything different?
Warm-ups. Just awkward warm-ups. And I definitely note it. And then just recording and the in-ears, because I was able to listen to a couple of times on the Tool tour, they let me listen to Maynard's in-ear mix. And because the heaviness is just filling up the whole stage, even with my in-ears and no speakers blaring at me, you're like, well, wait, where's the pitch? There's so much tone,
Yeah.
And so they helped me really dial that mix in a way. Depending on how much bass you can feel, you can take that out of your ears. And so everything below like 150 hertz, I'd take out, and all of a sudden your vocals, or you can really hear your vocals much better. So now all of a sudden it's like hitting pitches is a, in the studio, it's never a problem, but then live with the,
yeah.
Now it's working out a lot better. So the confidence is up a lot more.
That's great, man. Yeah. I think about that too. 'Cause I never got to that professional level where we had such tweaked in-ears or whatever. Like for me, it was monitors, and I never had in-ears. Sometimes I would wear like pro level ear plugs just to not mess up my ear, but then I can't even hear anything, and all I hear is like a muffled like in your head. It's like I don't like that either.
Yeah, how did people do that?
I don't get it, man. I can't focus.
And there's still some like pros that use monitors and earplugs. And they sing like, I'm like, how are you doing that? It's like, I guess because you kind of hear it through your skull.
Yeah, it's like a vibration right up here. It's nuts.
And they can do the pitch that way, and it's amazing. Maybe that would work. I haven't really, but I need a click track now anyway. Sometimes, and little things when I'm droning out that tell me like, okay, you should change now, and so it tells me, So I'm dependent on it now.
Now you have to do it.
Yeah.
It's like me with driving. I can't drive without GPS anymore. I used to be able to drive around like I know where I'm going. I know north, south, whatever. Now it's like if I don't plug it in on the phone, even if I'm going down the street, I'm going to get lost.
Yeah.
I'll put on some music and just start rocking out. And I'm like, whoop, I passed it like 4 blocks ago. So unless I have something constantly telling me like, make a right, it's like, oh, okay, I got to make a right.
Yeah, exactly. That's what I have. I got my little GPS, and now the guitar player, Doug, he needs to have the fucking GPS on too. So,
yeah. Well, that's it. So, I mean, damn. I mean, I guess since no shows since the pandemic, and I mean, I don't want to put the fear in you, but it's just got to be weird getting up there and trying to perform. And I mean, I don't know how you are personally, and I don't want to get too deep in like some kind of political conversation, but like, I still have the fear, you know what I mean? When I go out, and even when I go out now, I go to like the Comedy Store or something. I keep my distance, you know, I'll have my mask on. I'm not scared of it. I'm cool, but also, you know, there's no need to just be wilding out.
Yeah. No, dude. I mean, I've got some, I have a little heart thing. It's not really an issue, but it's a genetic, just a little thing that sometimes had crept up, and I modify. I keep on top of it with some meds. It's not like a blockage. It's kind of like not an arrhythmia, a little spasm. And so it's in the back of my head that, you know, there are heart repercussions to COVID. And so I have to sort of, I mean, I'm N95 in it now. And now this tour that we have coming up, you know, in March, and then we have another European tour after that. You know, those are obviously question marks, but if things get back to where we were, say in September, October, where we're pretty low, I'll probably do it. And yeah, it's going to be like play on stage without your mask. But the second you get off the stage, put your mask on, try to get the venue to sell your merch for you, bring less merch so it's not as complicated. Yeah. Those logistics are like, get in the green room, get the fuck out of there and go drink at your hotel room or something. And it's going to be having to be real, like, cause you're going to know people in every city. Mm-hmm. Like, hey, what's up? You know, like it's so-and-so. And this is person, maybe he made the fucking video of your album, and you owe him like everything you can give him because you didn't pay him anything. This guy knows, and when he hears this podcast, he'll know who I'm talking about.
Hey, those are the homies, you know. But yeah, you got to take care. You got to take care of them, but also you got to take care of yourself. You know.
Yeah, we because if any one of us gets COVID, the tour is over, and everybody involved gets fucked. You know, when Tool was just on tour, I had sort of thought they came through San Diego, and I was like, oh, maybe I would. I don't know, maybe there would be a chance to say hello to those dudes. And there was absolutely no chance. Like I don't even think they're in the green rooms. I think they're on their bus until they play.
Yeah.
Because they're going to fuck everybody on their crew if one of them decides to bro down and then ruins it for all those people that are working.
Yeah. It's a big crew in the Tool tour, and everybody's got a job, and everybody depends on that money. And even in a smaller scale, even if it's just one other person, like now that person's life is in jeopardy, or they have to then figure it out and go find another job or something. It sucks, man. And I don't know how to get past it too either. Cause you know, even vaccines, like if you take it, like people still get it on the vaccine. So nothing's for sure. There's no fixing it.
Yeah, it's just mask. I was even thinking of like, could I use a mask while singing? I'm behind my microphone anyway.
Yeah.
I don't want to do it, but if it is possible. And then if I was able to wear that thing all the time, I'd probably fucking hate it, but it's possible.
Anyway. There's these new ones. It's like your whole head, and it looks like a astronaut thing, like a clear glass, you know, and it might add to your aesthetic for your show. Who knows?
Yeah, the Daft Punk mask. We'll see.
Get the lights inside. Get some LED lights in the headset. Yeah, I mean, best you can do is the best you can do, right? Just keep trying, put shows out there, and keep yourself safe. But people need to do it, and you need to have. It's weird. You need to have some kind of outlet, especially when you're a musician. Like you need to be able to play shows. I don't know. I don't know how so many musicians dealt with, this time off of not being able to play. I don't get it.
Yeah, I'm pretty anxious. It's been heartbreaking to have to cancel these, and as for everybody, but there's I try to like look at like I was on another podcast and someone was talking about Ian MacKaye and how he with Fugazi, he. they made these, like, he painted himself in a corner, that he would say, like, in order to sort of have limitations to bring out creativity. And so, like, I sometimes feel like the pandemic and has, I like when that happens to me. It's almost like when if I play Europe and I play like a fly-in show where I'm not going to have, I can't have certain things, or I have to limit the amount of gear I bring. It's almost like kind of a relief, because I'm like, oh, okay, I have to like pare things down. And having less stuff is always makes me play better. When I have less gear on stage, I'm like, if I, and so anyway, these tours are kind of like that. Like, we have to bring minimal stuff, but we still have to be really good, so let's get some lights and program the lights better. And I don't know. That's kind of how I feel about this whole thing. It's, these limitations of the way it shouldn't make it worse. In some ways, it might even make it better, because people are not having the James Hetfield gear set up. They're having the minimal. Yeah. I saw this band Actors. You ever heard of them? It's a
Actors,
Vancouver band. They're like kind of like dark wave, synth wave, but they're live guitars and stuff. Really good Depeche Mode vibes and stuff. They had these little combo amps when I saw them play at this festival that were like 1 10 or 12-inch speaker per each. And it fucking rocked. It was so huge. They ran it through the PA. And
nice.
And I was thinking to myself, like, I wonder, like, I wonder how they got to that point and still sounded so badass. Anyway.
Yeah, lots of challenges. It's challenging, and it makes people be more creative and try to find new ways to make that sound work, and
yeah,
and that's the human spirit right there. Just these obstacles and how can we overcome them? And I think that is the positive thing about the pandemic, is just that it gives us a moment to stop and then have to, like, okay, what do we do now? How do we improvise? How do we overcome this challenge, this obstacle? And it makes for the best of us. Like, this is one thing that I truly believe it, but a lot of people will argue against me. But a lot of musicians, I feel, write their best stuff when they're having a struggle, when they're either financial struggle or an emotional struggle. They lost a family member or something like that. Usually brings the best out of them. And a lot of people are like, no, you don't need that. You don't need, terrible trauma to, like, inspire you. But, like, it works. I don't know how to explain it.
Yeah, I'm wondering if there's going to be sort of a, let's see. So during the pandemic, a lot of bands did release, but a lot of bands also, I'd say, like, now or even 2021, you're starting to see, like, is there a certain feel to the type of music that was written during that time? Are we going to look back on this and say, like, oh, that was the age of, like, those were the pandemic albums,
Mm-hmm, mm-hmm.
And I wonder, I don't know if we fully like Emma Ruth Rundle, her album that she just released, Sargent House, the one track on there called Return was definitely one of those tracks that, like, when I heard it was like, oof, like, oh, that's like a ton of bricks,
Yeah.
She was dealing with some stuff and it hit hard. And I'm wondering if there's some tracks. And I feel like, there's certain times moments on this album that I hit certain notes and it, like, makes me remember how that felt,
Yeah. I mean, a lot of these albums that are out now that just came out or have come out in the last, late 2021, early 2022, those are all things that have been written from what I've seen. This is from my judgment from, like, interviewing folks. Everybody's like, yeah, I wrote that in 2019. And, like, it just now came out because of everything that happened. So it's not really written with the pandemic in mind. It's just kind of now it's out. And like you said, I think that now we're going to start getting into some albums that have been inspired by this actual problem. And right. there's already a kind of a some people have done it already. And there's, like, a weird nervousness to the music. There's a weirdness. There's, like, an anxiety to it. A lot of energy, but in, like, a nervous energy. I don't know. I feel it. And for your album, like, the way the visuals especially have kind of combined with the music, there's this, like, futuristic kind of cyberpunky kind of dystopian, like the end of the, post-apocalyptic vibe to it.
Yeah, we tried to take a more, like, because we make doom metal. That's what every one of these bands does. So we're all like, like if you look at the bands that I love, the Body or like Uniform or Chelsea Wolf, it's like everybody on their arm like writes something terrible, on their shirt, like like all human suffering is, we deserve it, like and it's just like So I tried to. That's what Beastland 100% was like. Fuck. Like. But the newer album is like. I tried to like use colors and tried to take some of the cynicism out of it and try to like look at like that post-apocalyptic survival mode in sort of the less violent way. Like we're not all of us are going to try to kill each other. We're going to actually try to still like involve culture in our lives, even after society breaks down,
Yeah.
We're still going to have music and art. And so that some of the color and the art and the themes, it's not the vehicles were a big theme for me, like sort of these survival vehicles, Tacomas and Sprinters, and they were driving around with their like gas tanks and all this survival gear, and you're like, whoa, what's going on? So I tried to like sort of imagine a different side to that was less like militaristic.
Yeah, yeah. The human side of it, the end of the world.
Yeah, well, it's like that show on HBO that I just watched, Station 11. It was like, oh, that at least for the first few episodes, that kind of like definitely captured some of the vibes.
Yeah, I had a moment during the pandemic. I know I've talked about other moments that I've had, but I had a moment where there was a breakdown moment, which I've talked about, where like I thought the live shows were done and everything, but then there was a moment like right after that where my brain went into survival mode. And I've never had that in my life. I've never been a prepper, you know what I mean? Or anything like that. But I went and I bought like a go bag. I bought some knives. I bought some guns. I'm like, well, just in case.
Yeah.
Who knows? And, if nothing happens, well, at least I have some cool extra stuff laying around if we want to go camping or something. But
not a problem to have that stuff.
Yeah, it's not a problem. If you don't go crazy where you're like building an underground shelter, with like years supplies of like MREs and stuff. But yeah, it was just a couple things here for survival. But I never had that in my brain of like, oh shit, I should have that. It was more like, we're good. Life is good. And then all this happened, like, oh no, no, it's not.
No, I mean, yeah, I think you're not alone there. We all had that feeling. We drove across country to see my parents during the pandemic in October, and we camped in the van and had a little burner and cooked our food and tried not to go into any restaurants or anything. And that was in my mind, thinking about
preparation.
That. Yeah, of course, if you tried to dig in San Diego, you might get down about 20 inches before you hit the bedrock.
Yeah.
No basements here.
Yeah, that's true. That's true. Wow. I mean, well, isn't there what they call the boobies that are on the road down from LA to San Diego, those nuclear things? There's got to be some kind of shelters in that area, right?
There's probably some shelters in Pendleton or whatever.
Yeah, Camp Pendleton, right? Yeah.
Definitely in the desert. There are those desert rats out there for sure.
Yeah.
Arizona's not far away, and I'm sure there's a lot of shelters there.
Shelters and mafia victims get buried out in the desert, right? Yep. Wasn't that Breaking Bad taught us that? I wanted that picture of you on your website that you're standing in front of this ridiculous like machine, and it looks like a junkyard. Where is that?
Oh, that's the San Diego dump.
Really? I was going to assume like somewhere in like Europe.
Yeah, so that was Becky DiGilio, who's a photographer in San Diego. I asked her to do some photos for me for promo, and I had two ideas. One was to go try to find these Wiener Schnitzels that were broken. If you scroll to the bottom of my website, you'll see that picture. Because they've been the Wiener Schnitzels have been slowly all going out of business, and then they'll just sit there and kind of like be taken up by some unhoused people, or then they'll get burned, or who knows. And so it's such a remnant of like American, I don't know, decay. So I was like, okay, we're gonna go there. So we had to climb over the fence and get in there on Convoy, which is like where all the good Asian food is in San Diego. And so we're standing there doing these metal photos. It's a very busy area. And then we went to the dump. And so it was it was a nice date.
Nice.
But yeah, dude, we got out at the dump. I stood there. As we're standing there I'm talking like a minute, the security guys running at us, telling us, you can't do that, get the hell out of here. And so we almost got like 2 minutes of shots, and this machine was just going by as she did it.
Oh, really? It was moving?
Yeah.
Oh, wow. Yeah, that's a great
shot.
Oh, I see that. I just saw the driver like looking over like, what the fuck? I see his face. That's awesome.
Yeah, it was one of those ones. It's one of my favorite photos. It worked. It's just it just works for the album, especially with the vehicles. The theme of like these giant, crueler vehicles.
Well, yeah, that machine specifically. I mean, it's got like the the hydraulics and everything, which kind of and the track for the wheels. All of that kind of resembles a little bit of what you got going on with your machines on the stage. It
was a fun one. I definitely was. It's probably my favorite one ever. She nailed it. She nailed it.
That's so funny. I didn't really think about the Wiener Schnitzel situation. I mean, there's one nearby me, and sometimes we indulge in the little mini corn dogs that they make. They're not bad.
Yeah, Phil is funny because Phil, when I showed him, Phil Scrutz was also my manager. He also played on the album, but I showed him these pictures, and he's like, I love the one at the dump, but not so sure about the Wiener Schnitzel ones.
Shut up, Phil. Wiener Schnitzel's awesome. No, I'm just kidding.
What do you know? Well, I've always wanted to take, this is like one of my dreams. I probably already mentioned this on the last time we spoke, but it's to take one of these Wiener Schnitzels. Because when you go to Germany and you have actual Wiener Schnitzel and lager, Helles lager, and then you come to the U.S. and you go to the Wiener Schnitzel, and it's like, wait. Wow. So I was like, let's make one of those into a proper German beer garden, and then put tables outside and giant mugs of beer. And so if you got an investor, I'll be happy to.
Yeah, I like the idea though. That's really great, and I like the shape of the Wiener Schnitzels. Really do lend itself for something like that, like a nice beer house.
It's got history too, and people know that's a Wiener Schnitzel that's now a real Wiener Schnitzel.
Yeah.
Probably only have to add an umlaut, and then you wouldn't get any copyright infringements.
That's true.
Ex Wiener Schnitzel is what we could call it. Or
ex Wiener Schnitzel, yeah. Wiener Schnitzel of the past.
Yeah.
But so cool, man. The new album's coming out soon. So you know what I'm going to do? I'm going to push this episode up because I do have like a few banked in, but they're not time. There's no time. Okay. There's no albums linked to them, so those can be moved. But yeah. I'll move this up so we could be kind of around the same release of the album at least. But for everybody that's watching and listening, Crueler is available February 11th. Is it still on Relapse? Are you still on Relapse?
Yep.
So it's out through Relapse. So there's going to be a million awesome vinyl variants that are going to take forever.
There's so many colored because the album is so colorful that they just went nuts.
Nice. Yeah, I love that they do that. I love, I'm a collector, but I also don't do, like, I'm not going to have 5 copies of the same album. I'm not that kind of collector. But it does give me, like, excitement to, like, pick the one that I want. This is going to be the one. This is the variant that I'm looking for. Even if I'm not
looking forward to being on the road with those, dude, because people are going to be like, I want the one with it. I'm like, wait, I don't know what.
Yeah, pick it, find it. I don't know what to. So when you're traveling now, I mean, now you're going to have an extra person with the guitarist. How many people do you travel with for tours?
Well, I'll probably bring a sound guy too, John Coda, who also played drums on a couple of tracks on the album. But he plays in a band Death Eyes in San Diego, and he does sound at the Casbah and everything, but he'll come on the road with me. So it'll just be the 3 of us, I think.
Okay. All right. That's a lot of equipment for 3 guys, but okay.
Yeah.
But that's cool. I'm excited. I'm hoping that everything works out in terms of this upcoming Euro tour that you have. Hope nothing gets canceled because I know how much it sucks. And but the plan is that, and then you said you have some dates in LA in March.
Yeah, LA. I think this March 6th through March 10th, I'll be doing about 4 shows on the West Coast, and
Okay.
then go to Europe in the end of March into April, and then in May, there's a festival in Austin called Oblivion, and there'll be a run of about 10 shows around that, sort of in the Southwest, and then San Diego will be the last one. So Casbah is coming up. Oh,
Very cool.
and speaking of, are you still focused on like beer on this podcast? Is that sort of?
We can talk
Yeah,
about it. Let's go.
yeah.
Well, you got beer coming?
I got a beer coming. So we're doing.
Oh, with
I don't
who?
think I'm officially supposed to announce this, but fuck it. Thorn in San Diego will be doing a black lager.
Very cool.
I wanted to do a Hellas style lager, but because it's metal, they just wanted to make it black. So we're doing a black lager.
Yeah, it'll have a little bit more roastiness to it. That's fine.
Sorry, black. Sorry, it's a I fucked this up already.
Oh,
It's a
okay.
black Kolsch,
Oh,
the
Kolsch.
Kruller Kolsch. Yeah,
So it'll be very light bodied, but dark in color.
yeah. Hopefully keep the carbonation down a little bit. You know, I really love that Kolsch when it's doesn't really hit you with the bite of the carbonation. It's just
Yeah.
real smooth without much aftertaste. You know.
Yeah, yeah.
Oh,
Is there a plan for? I mean, you're probably still working that all out, but are you going to take some on the road with you to like have at shows? How's that going to work out?
I don't even know if that's allowed, but we're gonna do a show at the Casbah in May, and we'll have the cans there. We're still got to work that out with them, and then maybe we'll do something special at Thorn. You know, the one down in Barrio Logan actually has some. It's a bunch of spaces there that are kind of all work together. A barbecue shop. There's a couple performance places, so we might maybe do something with them. I don't know yet. Get some bands, or we're still talking, but they're really cool to have agreed to do that. So I was stoked.
That's great. That's great. I was going to ask if you mentioned you're not drinking as much or you're taking a break.
Not really. Just not trying to go crazy with it, but I'm a pretty solidly into the pilsners and lagers these days.
Very cool. Very cool. Yeah, me too. I still do some IPAs here and there, but like those days of mine where I would drink like 15% stouts with, coconut and vanilla and all that, like I can't do that anymore. Just the diabetes is going to kill me.
Yeah.
Diabetes. But
Diabetes.
The pilsners and the kolsches and the lagers are so, especially if they're well done, if they're done properly, there's nothing like it. There's nothing.
Yeah, we're
like
getting better at it. I'm pretty. There's a company up in north of LA.
Enegrin.
Enegrin.
Yeah.
Oh, that one is so good. The Lagatha lager.
Yes, the Lagatha. Wow, it's so good.
And it's just Lagatha,
Yeah.
what else do you have to say? The only place I can find it is Bevmo, so I'm kind of.
I found it at Whole Foods a couple times out here in LA, the one by Fairfax by the food the farmers market. They've had it sometimes, but I've been wanting to take a trip out to the brewery just because I'm such a fan of the beers that I was like, I need to go up there, become friends, like.
Yeah, maybe you and I and Phil could head up there, and because I love that stuff. It's just a weird place. You wouldn't tour through there, unless you were
Right.
playing Santa Barbara or something.
Yeah. Yeah, that's why I haven't done it, because it's like, what I got to figure out what else I'm going to do. Like, I got to make it a worthy trip. There's got to be a food place and maybe something to look at, like some kind of museum or arcade or something. There's got to be something else than just taking like an hour drive, for beer.
And then sort of drive back properly. Yeah.
Right. But hey, I'll keep, we can, I'm working on a travel TV show where I go to breweries with musicians. So that's in the works right now, and maybe that's one of the episodes. You, me, and Phil, we can drive up there.
That would be great. We both are huge fans of that style of beer, especially. And I got my pretzel game on. I've been making some good pretzels and
What?
Schnitzel. We do a little Oktoberfest at my parents' farm every fall now.
Oh wow. Okay.
Schnitzel, Polliner with the, or whatever we can find.
Is this farm in San Diego?
No, it's in New Hampshire. So like when
okay.
I'm kind of home, we'll have just get the fryer out there on the on the field. And, but yeah.
That's great. That's great. Well, dude, thanks again for being on the show again. And I'm stoked. Hopefully I'll come out and see you guys in March if it all, if the show happens and everything's lined up, I'll come out and see you guys. But everybody that's watching and listening, keep an eye out. The Euro Tour starts February 7th, fingers crossed. And it goes all the way down to February 21st, and then the LA shows March 6th at Resident. Is that right?
Yep.
And then you're going back to Europe in October, so that's good. And then the album February 11th on Relapse. Pre-order it now. This will be out before the album's out, so pre-order it now and get yourself a vinyl, one of the many beautiful variants. And yeah, dude, thanks again. It's good seeing you. It's been a while.
Yeah, it's been a while. Let's make that trip happen and stay safe.
Yeah, you too, brother. Take care.
All right. See you. Bye.